Given that we spend approximately 1/3 of our lives sleeping, and since the quality of that 1/3 greatly impacts the other 2/3, taking a little time to learn how to sleep better is definitely worthwhile. This is especially true for those of us who have developed sleep problems. So in this video, I'm going to start by giving you 12 behavioral and environmental tips for enhancing your sleep patterns, and then give you some very powerful advice for winning the inner game of deep sleep. Some of these first suggestions here may be obvious, but any of them, if being overlooked, could really be the weak link in your sleep efforts, so they're definitely worth a review. Okay, first tip, eat dinner at least 2 hours before bedtime. This is because your body uses a tremendous amount of energy in the process of digestion, and eating well in advance of sleep allows your body to also get the rest it needs while your mind is resting. Also, you'll have a much easier time falling asleep if your body's metabolism isn't all geared up for the work that digestion requires. Okay, tip number 2, don't forget the importance of diet and nutrition. This is common sense stuff, but poor nutrition has been closely associated with sleep disturbance. And while a full discussion of nutrition is beyond the scope of this video, above all, use common sense when choosing your foods and try to keep your meals balanced. If you experience indigestion, reflux, heart, or throat burn, then you'll especially want to avoid spicy and high-fat foods in the evening. As a side note, many people find that certain foods have sleep-conducive qualities. For example, tryptophan is thought to help produce serotonin, which aids in inducing sleep. Most people think turkey when they hear tryptophan, but it's also found in some fish, beans, leafy vegetables, and nuts. Other people find that a glass of warm milk helps them to fall asleep, most likely because of the calcium content. Okay, tip number 3, say goodnight to alcohol, cigarettes, and caffeine. While alcohol may appear to help you fall asleep sometimes, it can also suppress your mind's ability to relax and actually have a stimulating effect. People who use alcohol may also lose out on the dream state of sleep, which is an important component of the emotional cleansing that sleep provides. As for nicotine and caffeine, these are both well-known nervous system stimulants which increase heart rate, release stress hormones, and really make good sleep difficult. So if you're serious about getting a better night's rest, your best bet is to cut out alcohol, caffeine, and nicotine from your diet completely. Tip number 4, get a decent amount of exercise each day. Over millions of years, our bodies have evolved with regular physical activity present, which modern conveniences, cars, and office jobs have nearly eliminated. But exercise helps release excess body energy, it reduces stress levels, and it produces endorphins that relax your mind and body. It also increases your body temperature during the day, which helps to define your circadian rhythms, which are the patterns of sleep and wakefulness that our body synchronizes to. Think about how easily kids fall asleep at night, and then notice how much physical activity they're engaged in during the day. Now, exercise isn't the only factor, of course, but it will certainly contribute to getting the good rest that you're after. Okay, tip number 5, sleep less. That's right, cut down on your sleep time. It may seem counterintuitive, but shortening the length of time that you sleep will make it more likely that you'll feel drowsy, fall asleep quickly, and stay asleep the next night. So as a general rule, if you're having trouble falling asleep, take the amount of sleep time that you consider your personal ideal and try cutting maybe 30 to 60 minutes off of that amount in the morning. With your new earlier rising time, you'll likely find it much easier to fall asleep at night. Okay, tip number 6, go to bed and get up at the same time every day. Many of our body's physiological processes follow rhythms during a 24-hour cycle. It's that circadian rhythm that I mentioned earlier. And keeping your sleep schedule synchronized with your internal clock is crucial for restful sleep. Many people develop sleep problems when they get in the habit of staying up late, cramming for exams, preparing last-minute work projects, maybe watching TV late on certain nights, or staying out late on the weekends. This might be fine for a while, but that kind of irregularity creates conflict with your body's natural cycles, and in the long run, it interferes greatly with restful sleep. It's easy to overlook the importance of a regular schedule since many of us have disregarded it for years and done fine. But if you're having sleep difficulties now, make a special point of trying to stay on schedule for at least a couple weeks to see if it helps. Okay, tip number 7, get some natural sunlight exposure every day. Bright light is a signal that your mind uses to decide when to initiate body processes that are associated with wakefulness. It triggers changes that involve body temperature and hormonal secretion, and in this way, sunlight is one more thing that helps your body stay on a proper circadian schedule, and studies show that it can even help improve your mood. All these factors contribute to better sleep. So at the very least, sit outside or take a walk in the morning if possible. If you work in an office or at home with minimal sunlight, get out for lunch and maybe consider outfitting your workspace with brighter lighting, perhaps with lamps that produce artificial sunlight. Tip number 9, expand your bladder. Now, this might sound slightly bizarre, but a lot of people will find it helpful. If you're a person that wakes up frequently at night for bathroom trips, there's a good chance that the reason for this is simply a shrinking bladder or low bladder tolerance. People who are in the habit of making frequent bathroom trips during the day are the ones most likely to have the reduced bladder capacity and or low tolerance that causes this. But the good news is that increasing your capacity and tolerance isn't difficult. Just try drinking several glasses of water in the morning and then hold off for as long as you can before using the bathroom. At other times during the day, sip water regularly, and when you feel that need to relieve yourself, also try waiting a little longer than usual. This exercise will both expand the size of your urinary bladder and it also strengthens the muscles for holding it in, as well as increases your mental tolerance. However, you'll want to stop or at least minimize fluid intake within the hour or two before bedtime. Also, I find it very helpful to eat a low sodium dinner in order to reduce my evening thirst and to avoid feelings of dehydration and dry mouth while sleeping. Okay, tip number 10, choose your evening activities carefully. By this I mean try to avoid stressful or thought-intensive activities within the hour or so before bedtime. What exactly that is will vary from person to person. For example, calling a relative may relax some people, but it might stress others. Paying bills in the evening might be fine for some, but probably isn't a good idea if you're having financial problems. Reading a book or watching TV might help some of us wind down, or it could have a stimulating effect. I used to watch a particular sitcom before going to sleep, which I considered a pretty light and relaxing show, but the fact is that it was getting my mind actively involved in a plot, and just that little bit of thinking was interfering with my ability to fall asleep afterwards. The same could be said of checking email and surfing the internet at night. It really depends on your personal mindset during that activity. So regardless of what you're doing at night, if you're having trouble falling asleep, try eliminating that or replacing it, at least for a few nights to see if it makes a difference. You might find that listening to relaxing music, maybe reading fiction or meditating, or just engaging in some monotonous, mindless activity or relaxing hobby might help you wind down better. Also, regardless of which activities you choose, start preparing for sleep about 20 to 30 minutes before bedtime so that you don't create a feeling of rush just before lying down. Okay, tip number 11, think twice before taking that nap. As a general rule, listen to your body and take a nap if you feel excessively fatigued during the day, but try to avoid napping regularly. Habitual napping can easily carve a physiological pattern or psychological pattern that automatically induces fatigue during the day at the time of your nap. That in itself might be fine if your schedule allows for it, but know that it could be depriving you of the feeling of fatigue that can help you fall asleep at night. And at the very least, definitely avoid napping or even dozing in the evening. It's very easy to drift off while watching TV or reading a book at night, but be aware that any dip into unconsciousness, however brief, can provide your body with an energy boost that makes it much more difficult to fall asleep later. Alright, last tip for this outer game of better sleep. Tip number 12, prepare your room for sleep. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to sleep well if your mattress and bedding aren't comfortable, or if you're too hot or too cold at night. So keep an extra blanket nearby and know that natural materials like cotton and down usually breathe better than synthetic materials. If you get neck cramps at night, try a different pillow or have a few pillows on your bed to rotate through. If you share a bed and are often awoken by your partner's movements or body heat, try a larger mattress or maybe a foam mattress that will absorb the movements better. If it's a problem, you might even try using separate blankets to avoid that nighttime tug of war. Separate blankets can also make it easier to regulate your own body temperature. If you think that separate blankets might offend your partner, maybe just get an oversized one so that you can leave some slack in the middle. Now, if street noises, snoring, dog barking, or other noises disturb you at night, try a variety of earplugs to find something comfortable. Or if you don't like earplugs, try playing a CD of nature sounds or maybe white noise. I'll give you a link where you can download some free white noise backgrounds. You could also try running a fan, an air purifier, or even just tune your radio to the static between stations to get a similar effect to white noise. Finally, if light from street lamps or other sources bothers you, you can either get a light blocking shade or hang a piece of heavy canvas in front of your window, or maybe just find a comfortable sleeping mask. Okay, so those are my 12 tips for improving sleep through environmental or behavioral changes. However, as you might know, the most common cause of sleep disturbance is not external or environmental disturbance, but rather internal disturbance, meaning what's going on in your head, which makes insomnia and other sleep issues more of a psychological phenomenon than anything else. In most cases, sleep problems are a result of stress, worry thoughts, and other internal mental processes. So now, I want to discuss what I call the inner game of better sleep. Now, a couple of things that I already mentioned will overlap here. For example, avoiding caffeine and nicotine are behavioral changes, but the objective is to keep your mind in a sleep-capable state. Likewise, choosing relaxing evening activities is a behavioral change as well, but the objective is to keep your mind at ease, relatively inactive, and unstressed for the hour or so before bedtime. And exercise is another physical activity that we mentioned, but the real benefit comes from the release of serotonin and hormones that make it easier for your mind to relax into the sleep state. So even if your only interest is working on the mental aspect of better sleep, don't disregard the obvious stuff that we already covered, because multiple factors contribute to a restful sleep, and any one missing component can become the weak link in your efforts. Okay, so with that understood, I have 5 tips for winning the inner game of better sleep. First, make a point of making sleep the priority when you're in bed. By that I mean, if you're a person who gets in bed and starts thinking about what you have to do tomorrow or things that you forgot to do today, start reminding yourself that the best thing that you can possibly do to make tomorrow a better day is to stop thinking about it for the time being. The priority now while you're in bed is sleep and letting your conscious mind relax and restore itself. If you have a real trouble with this change at the beginning, you might keep a pen and paper or a tape recorder near your bed so that you can quickly write down or record your thoughts and then let them go. There's nothing worse than remembering something important while you're lying in bed and then trying to remember it for the duration of your sleep time or worrying that you'll forget about it. So a pen and paper or a tape recorder can help with making that transition, but as a general rule, the objective in bed should be to have a loose, free-flowing mind and not actively thinking, worrying, or stressing about anything. And this is where my second tip comes in, meditation. If you're open to it, it can do wonders for better sleep. A goal of just about every popular form of meditation, including Zen meditation, transcendental meditation, mindfulness meditation, on, is to slow conscious thought by learning how to control your mind and stay focused on something in a way that moves you beyond thought. It's pretty simple stuff conceptually, but it can really have amazing benefits for improving sleep. Now, I'm not recommending that you meditate while falling asleep, but rather practice meditating during the day, just once or twice a day for 5 or 10 minutes. And with that, you'll find yourself developing an ability to kind of turn your thoughts off or to pause them at will. And not only does this de-stressing during the day benefit your sleep efforts at night, but you'll find that the ability to pause or slow down thought at will does amazing things for your ability to fall asleep quickly. Now, if you're not into the idea of meditation during the day, another thing you might try when you're having trouble falling asleep is to concentrate on your breathing while you're lying there and count your exhales. This is kind of like counting sheep. It's a way to slow your thought processes by keeping your mind focused on one thing, very similar to meditation. Better yet, at the same time as counting your exhales, try to mentally will yourself into deeper and deeper levels of relaxation with every exhale. Okay, third tip, practice blanking whenever you get up at night. For example, when you get up to go to the bathroom. By blanking, I mean practice keeping your mind like a blank slate. For a lot of people, a short trip to the bathroom is enough to start thinking about something. And once your mind becomes active and your body is already a little rested, poof, your chances of falling asleep are pretty much gone for a while. So this is kind of a skill that you get better at with time, but just start by making a game of it. Whenever you get up at night to go use the bathroom or for any other reason, your objective, your mission at that time is to not think a single thought. Of course, use common sense. This doesn't apply to emergencies. But for all the usual stuff, as you walk back and forth from bed, there's only one thing to keep in mind, and it is nothing, not a thought, but just a knowing that there's nothing more important than keeping your mind completely blank and thought-free. That's the goal of the game when you get up. Just gently know that there's no reason to start thinking about anything right now, because the most important thing is to keep your mind in a sleep-conducive state. Okay, tip number 4, practice the art of conscious dreaming. Conscious dreaming is a term that I made up, but what I mean by it is gently putting your mind into a state of free-flowing visualization while you're lying in bed. You can start by imagining yourself in your mind's eye in some sort of relaxing fantasy world, and then kind of nudge your mind to make it into a movie or into a sequence of images. You can kind of will your mind to spontaneously produce a flow of scenery, objects, places from that initial visual. To give you an example, kind of embarrassing, but I'll share for the sake of your better sleep. I used to start by imagining myself flying quietly in the air through the clouds with my soulmate as we look down over castles, grassy hillsides, beautiful rivers, and ancient forests. A really peaceful and magical scene with no worries at all. And then I would nudge my mind to continue the story with more imagery on its own. This is kind of a tough concept to describe, but you're of course familiar with simply imagining a scene in your mind. And then there's an actual dream while you're asleep where your mind is completely producing all the scenery on its own. But what I'm talking about is somewhere in between these two. Even if you're still consciously awake, it's possible to close your eyes and mentally will or nudge your mind to start producing a free flowing of images and scenery. You don't need to try hard. It's almost effortless, just like a dream. It's hard to describe or give instructions, but doing it is actually pretty simple. So I would say just give it a try, it will come, and it'll get easier with practice. Once you've learned how to do this, it's super relaxing, and it's an excellent way to lull your mind into actual sleep. But the thing I like most about this technique is that there's absolutely no need to rush it or to feel frustrated if it's not working, because it's a relaxing process in itself. And you'll still feel refreshed even if you don't fall asleep. At least that's my experience. It provides a mental renewal all by itself. But usually, the relaxation it provides puts me right into the real dream state. Okay, 5th tip, most important, is what I call energy flowing. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, stress is the number one cause of sleep problems, which is especially true when we're talking about the inner game of better sleep. Now, stress itself starts with thoughts, how we perceive our world, and our ability to deal with problems. That's where stress comes from. So I don't have any proof or research to back me up on this particular suggestion, but in my experience, I've found that just about all negative or stress-inducing thoughts start with the feeling or perception that I won't be able to handle things that are happening in my life. And this is what creates worry and stress, and it almost makes falling asleep and staying asleep just about impossible if I'm dwelling on it in bed. So what I do with energy flowing begins by slowing down any current procession of thought, maybe by using meditation or blanking. And from there, you can start to self-generate body energies or feelings that everything in life is going just the way you want it to, and that you will, without doubt, be able to handle anything that goes off course. This merges into a feeling that if anything goes wrong, it's meant to be, and you will be able to handle it. You can self-generate a feeling and knowing that the universe doesn't give you anything that you can't handle, and that everything coming your way is just right for you, even wonderful for you in the long run. When I get my mind into this state, I'm almost guaranteed of a super deep and restful sleep. Now, as far as what I mean by self-generating feelings, pause your audio player for a minute and try this. As you're sitting there, can you spontaneously, without thinking, make yourself feel happy or sad or excited? The answer is yes, you can. It may take a little experimentation and practice at first, but it's absolutely possible. You may be accustomed to letting your perception of the world dictate how you feel, but you can actually will yourself to feel a certain way as well. And that's what I mean by self-generating the energy or feeling. You can will the energy in your body, and from there you can do what I call flowing it. You amplify it or will it to grow larger and stronger in your body. There's no need for thought, just an underlying conscious will. It might sound strange, but it's absolutely possible. And if you practice this while lying in bed, flowing the energy that everything in life is just right and that you'll be able to handle anything that comes your way, if you do that, stress will literally dissolve, and it can really do wonders for your ability to sleep well. Okay, this has been a lot to pack into one video. Hopefully it's either provided some insights that will help you fall asleep, or maybe it's been boring enough to put you to sleep. If you found it helpful, I also teach a variation of meditation, kind of a wakeful process of what I just talked about in step 5. It's a tool that can give you a powerful ability to control and calm your mind, which is just about guaranteed to help you sleep better as well. It's totally free. You don't need to sign up for anything. If you're interested in giving it a try, you can find that free audio recording at mc2method.org. Thank you for watching, and good luck tonight.